y'all? ASMR Joe. Uh, yeah, I'm back. I'm here. Happy to be here. Hopefully trying to get my sleep schedule fixed. I fell asleep a little bit after the fights and woke up to use the restroom, and I was like, I gotta pop myself up. So I gotta do the recap. So sleep schedule's a little off. So, but it's not unfixable. I'll be fine. But I'm here to talk about UFC 313. Ooh, uh, honestly, it was a card I've been pretty pumped for myself. A lot of, did it deliver? Yeah, I think so. I think it delivered. I mean, without any biases aside, in terms of the quality of the fights, I thought the main event was compelling. In terms of like raw entertainment, it was compelling. The co-main event was fantastic. The headlining of, or I don't know what the marquee matchup, the third fight on the main card was fantastic. I thought the women's fight was probably the weakest card or fight on the card. I didn't get to watch all the prelims, so I don't know, but and the opener was electric. So enough talk though. Let's just get into the fight. Main event. It's a big one. Alex Pereira, the biggest star in the UFC by a large margin. I find it like his like really really hardcore fan base kind of ruined it for everybody. It's that one rotten apple ruins the bunch. Pereira kind of has a fandom like that too. Um, you know. That said, I respect the guy a ton. He is a blast to watch fight when he's fighting a striker, 9 times out of 10. And I think his fight with Khalil Roundtree is great. His fight with Yuri, they were interesting, even though sadly, striking with the guy, you kind of go, all right, like you're just gonna lose. Why are you striking with this guy? Just take him down. Just take him down. Yeah, it's really frustrating. Like you guys have seen me get frustrated here, and he's taking on Magomed Ankalaev, who was like, "I'm gonna knock out Beta on the feet," and it's like that scene in was it Naked Gun 2 or 3 where everybody just goes. I think it's I think it's 2 or 3, whichever one had Fred Ward in it, I believe. I think Fred Ward is the villain in that one, but I just felt you know doing that, and yeah. That said, 'cause I think Malcolm, I think Pereira will always have and I think he still does. I'll get into that. But there's always been this question mark above his head with all of his accolades and his accomplishments. Um, can he wrestle? You know, and I know some people out there are like, who cares if he can't wrestle? I like watching him fight, and there's nothing wrong with that. 110%. But it's another thing altogether. I personally feel when we just ignore that question altogether. When the UFC books fights to avoid having to answer that question, and when they promote guys as if, no, 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 who cares about that question? We're here. This guy's awesome. That's totally fine ish, because it's a slippery slope. There's a reason some of these fan bases and fighters I'm very critical of. The two biggest ones that come to mind for me is one of them was a star, the other one they were pushing to be a star and it wasn't working. But one of the ones is Connor. Very critical of Connor's career. Um, I think whenever the question was asked, we got a very resounding answer on a guy who wasn't looking for a quick finish, on a guy who was just trying to torture him for as many rounds as it took. And I thought he got kind of slapped up. I mean, obviously he got dominated. I don't think he won a round against Khabib personally. Um, I've covered that fight on the Retro Review series. You can hear me talk about it. um, then because like he kind of answered it. Another fight I talked about in the Retro Review series, and is Connor versus Chad Mendez. But 2 weeks notice, having to make weight and a big guy like that making weight. He answered some questions, but he couldn't fully answer all of them. So it was a little bit of like, no, the question's still there. You know, And then the other one is the failure experiment of let's push this guy to the moon. The one of the guys of most recent victims of Dana White privilege, as they say. is Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley never he fought one guy who could really or two guys who could really wrestle. One of them was Aljo, who was injured going into that fight and took the fight way too early. There's a lot of issues going in with that, and that kind of leaves the question there. And Piotr Jan is a solid grappler, but he isn't known for it. He's mostly known for his boxing and everything like that, and his kickboxing as well. So for me, the question was still there. I still had to like think about it a little bit. So I was of the belief that, okay, how do we kind of, you know, or then, of course, Marab beat him, but when it comes to Pereira, I was still of the belief of, okay, when are we going to get this question answered? Because the best wrestlers he's faced have been Jan Blachowicz, who isn't trying to take you down with skill, he's trying to just strength you down, and Sean Strickland, who doesn't wrestle anymore, he just kind of throws jabs and a teep kick out twice around and hopes for the best. So I think I think there's a lot of questions that needed to be added, and so a fight with Magomed Ankalaev was very important. And this fight still has me having that question, admittingly. So I think Alex Mahida's takedown defense looked very good. It wasn't until later in the fight that I ever get the impression that Ankalaev was putting everything, committing full force into these takedowns. I felt like early on he was trying for non-committal takedowns to try and gauge how Alex is defending them and then go back to the striking. Because this fight was 90% of a kickboxing match. Contrary to what angry people on the internet, like MMA Guru, who's currently, I think he's still going on a kind of pseudo racist rant complaining about, wrestling and Magomed Ankalaev's game plan, which I thought this fight was compelling. Um, but Ankalaev mostly would try and clinch up, press against the cage. He would kind of clinch up, attempt to wrestle, grind a little bit, and then they would back off, and he would go back to striking with him. He really outside of like having him fully on his back, this felt like a very complete mixing of the martial arts uh, um, which is a great thing, I think, because Alex Pereira has fights that are just kickboxing matches. We want, and that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. Because Chuck Liddell had those too, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I want to see mixed martial arts at the highest level. I, and that's just me. That's a preference. I got no problem with a guy like Tom Aspinall going out there clobbering guys, and I still like watching that. But there's a point when I know Tom Aspinall can wrestle. I know Tom Aspinall can has a submission game. We don't know that with Alex Pereira, so it's a little bit different. I knew Chuck Liddell could take a guy down. I knew certain things with Pereira. It's a little different. So I'm ranting a lot about this one, but because there's a lot to talk about with this one. I'm admittingly going to do the rest of the card for the rest of the card coming up because this is the big one. This is the one that needs to be discussed. And it's kind of a sensitive subject. So I know a lot of people are big or Pereira fans. I myself like watching him fight. He's very entertaining. I'm going to be excited for his next fight, but credit has to be given to Magomed Ankalaev, who I believe won. I think he won 4 rounds. I think he only lost the first round. First round, Pereira's doing well. Ankalaev starts to hand fight more, southpaw orthodox. So this is an open guard matchup. He starts hand fighting more, and Pereira was trying to attack with calf kicks more. It was kind of interesting. And then in the second round, Ankalaev started throwing body kicks. And I noticed this. He started throwing body kicks. It started off with a teep kick to the body, which was very good. Then a couple roundhouses, which were very good. And then from there, he was able to kind of move in and what I always think of as the Dagestani boxing technique, because Habib kind of punches in a similar way, Ankalaev punches in a similar way, and Makhachev punches in a similar way. So I kind of thought of him doing stuff like that and at these weird angles, a lot of ways, a lot of times countering straights and jabs with your own straights and head movement, and you're kind of ducking sometimes when you punch, which probably makes your opponent think you're gonna shoot or anything like that. And I think all of that was freezing him up. Plus, I think he got kicked pretty hard in the body. I wouldn't be surprised if the body shots that he had taken from body kicks and the knees in the clinch and stuff like that, and punches and in exchanges, I think really wore on him. I think the body attack of Ankalaev might have given him the edge in the striking because he does hurt Pereira at the end of the second round. Third round's closer, but I think Alex Pereira's he was getting pressured. Like it wasn't like he was winning off of his back foot. He was just getting pressured, just neutral pressure. And in a neutral pressure situation where you're not winning off of your back foot and your opponent's not necessarily winning on their front foot, I have to go with the guy pressuring. So I'm going to go with Ankalaev in that third round. Fourth round, I thought Ankalaev very cleanly won. Fifth round was close. Pereira at the beginning, Ankalaev at the end. I'm going to give it to Ankalaev, though, I think. Um, I think it's more, I think he won more of that final round, and he wins a unanimous decision where Dana White is visibly seething because now he has to put effort into promoting guys again. Potentially. I don't think he will. I don't think he will. Bejeda was kind of an anomaly, and he's going to remain a big star because this is a guy that is ironically incredibly funny, very fun personality. His lack of personality makes him a fun personality. Uh, and he just has incredible power that is stunning and shocking and very pleasing for casual and mainstream audiences alike. Very fun style. I think he's going to continue to be a star. I wouldn't be surprised if the rematch actually does very well in this fight because I'm sure people probably are going to think that Ankalaev lost and Pereira won. I don't think so personally. I don't think it was necessarily a close fight. I could understand if someone thinks it's a close fight though. I don't think it's a weird kind of decision where I go, "Oh, I think it's a clear who won." And I would be upset if Pereira won. But I'm not going to be upset if someone says, "Well, that fight's close." If that makes sense. I don't know if that does. I think you guys know me well enough.
I'm back, and I'm better than ever. Bottom up.
But for the rest of the card, like I said, I spent a lot of time talking about this main event. Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev, they ran it back again. What a fight. Very similar to the first round, or to their first fight, but less technical, more bombastic, and more grappling, but more explosive, more reckless, and more grappling. And Justin Gaethje, in my opinion, shows that he's still elite. I never doubted his elite credibility personally, but Fiziev looked incredible out there as well. Very good fight. Very well worth the fight of the night honors. Next, we had Ignacio Bahamondes versus Jalen Turner. I really was excited for this fight, and this fight was doing very well. And then they go to the ground. Jalen Turner gets the fight to the ground, which was I was wondering about. And Ignacio Bahamondes locks in a triangle after attacking very well off of his back with elbows, attacking with his legs, gets a great triangle, and I loved it. Very, very good fight. And Jalen Turner, I think he might retire afterwards. He was saying people were saying that he was taking off his gloves, and his corner was like, "No, no, no, you got to think about this. You're emotional right now." So if he does retire, and I hear about this, best of luck to you in the future. It's a shame, and I understand emotions run high, but the absolute pleasure watching you fight. Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Maturity and wisdom kind of win again. Amanda Lemos gets a win, even despite Lucindo trying to having a pretty strong third round. Mauricio Rufy versus Bobby King Green, or just King Green. I still think his nickname should be Bobby. And Mauricio Rufy gets a knockout with a spinning wheel kick. Just very interesting seeing Rufy walk down King Green and like it was very fun seeing Green go for a kick. Rufy would kind of reach for it, and I was expecting, oh, okay, so King Green's gonna, fake a kick and come with a punch. Then I noticed that Rufy was starting to throw left hooks, like a step in left hook, and he was over spinning. And I went, oh, is he showing a spin early to see how Green reacts? Sure enough, he spins through, gets the wheel kick KO, and I felt very smart calling that out as I was watching it. So Joshua Van versus Ray Saruya was very good. Joshua Van did a very good job of defending takedowns, keeping this fight where he wanted. Bruno Ferreira beat Armin Petrosian by armbar. That fight had controversy, and I don't know what it was. And I did because I didn't get to. I mean, admit I didn't get a chance to watch it live. I was scrambling to get guests over and running some errands before I had guests over to watch the fights tonight. Carlos Neal versus Alex Morono. Neal just put on a shellacking because I did catch the very end of this one before I left and put on a shellacking with a TKO win in the first round over Alex Morono. Myron Santos versus Francis Marshall. This one I was a little bit in and out of because I was getting things ready. And from what a lot of people have said, Francis Marshall should have won that fight. The judges were really bad here. I don't, kind of curious how you guys feel about that one. Ozzy Diaz versus Jordan Santos by unanimous decision to open up the entire card. That is it for me. One last thing though. There is we got a new announcement for the Hall of Fame this year, and I popped off very hard. I was incredibly excited. I stood up in the room clapping. All my guests looked at me like I was stupid and crazy, and I was like, "Oh, you guys don't understand." But a couple of them the people who knew, because there was one phrase John Anik used, and all of them knew instantly. Oh, I know who this is, and which was very fun. Which was they announced Robbie Lawler was going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame inducted this year, and I was very happy about that. Robbie Lawler is one of my all-time favorites. I have him in my top five welterweights ever. But John Anik called him your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, which I think I heard it from them first, but I know I've been saying that for a while. He is the MF Doom of the fight game and should be treated as such. As always, you know, it was just a very emotional moment for me. Seeing a guy that stoic and that like stone faced throughout his whole career. He's either yes or it's hey, what's going on? Like that the whole time. You know, only two emotions I've ever seen out of him. Seeing him get emotional like that is just like when you retired over after knocking out Nico Price, you got emotional. It was just you know, get my allergy, make your allergies act up kind of thing. Make a grown man allergies act up. And seeing him get emotional in that crowd was right here. So that's it for me though, like I was saying. I'm Joe with the INC, and thank you so much for watching.